Hello, so it's early spring and I want to show you about a product that I'm using to get some cuttings going. Come join me in the chaos. All right, so I got this product, Myco, not sponsored. You could probably use whichever one you can find that's the cheapest. It's just a Mycorrhizal Fungi inoculant. And so if you don't know what that means, I'm gonna explain it. First off, a whole bunch of grape cuttings. You can see those on camera's focusing it. So I helped a friend, my dad's neighbor had some grapevines that had not been pruned ever. So he had tons of material. And so I removed all the extra material to get his grapevines on track. And he said I could have all the extra material because I told him I was gonna start a little mini vineyard. So I have this area back here and I have these nursery beds that I'm using. But something that I like to use when I first get cutting started is mycorrhizal fungi. So you can use whichever brand you want. Basically the reason why is because when plants are established, they usually will just form a symbiotic relationship with fungus in the soil. And what will end up happening is the plant will feed the mycorrhizal fungi with like sugars and whatever excess it has. And then in response, the fungus will give the plant things that it needs, because it forms this relationship where it's to the advantage of the fungus to keep the plant alive. And so it'll protect it, it'll give it water, and it'll give it excess things that it doesn't need. And they kind of just help each other to be successful. Kind of like a neighbor that has, loans you a couple eggs when you're trying to make cookies or something. So really good relationship. When plants first start though, like as cuttings, I literally just stuck sticks into the ground. And so there's not really much there. So by putting an inoculant in the ground, you're making sure that that cutting is surrounded, or at least has a better chance of becoming surrounded by this symbiotic fungus that's good fungus. And anytime you have something that's good, soil is always going to be inhabited by fungus, and it's better to be colonized by good fungus than it is to be colonized by bad fungus. And so because of this, I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle some of this inoculant all along these little grapevine cuttings, just to make sure that they have a better chance for survival. And because I have this, it's usually used on potted plants. I bought it on Amazon. I think people usually use it for growing other things in their houses in pots. So I don't really need it as much now that I live here, because I was using it in the house just to grow plants during the winter. And you sprinkle a little of this in the soil, and it makes sure that you have that inoculant in the soil. I mean, you can also I could probably sprinkle a little of this in my compost pile, in my mulch pile, and then I'll just have the pile completely inoculated with mycorrhizal fungi. But anyway, I just wanted to give that little advice. If you're starting a bunch of new things like cuttings, and you want to increase the probability that those cuttings will be successful, then you're definitely going to want to inoculate the soil with mycorrhizal fungi. A lot of times though, like I said, really rich soil will already be inoculated. You can just seed the new cuttings with rich compost. And typically rich compost will probably have they'll have some fungus at least. Whether or not it's gonna have mycorrhizal fungi is another story. So if you're not sure, it doesn't hurt to inoculate. All right, thanks for joining me in the chaos.